When I think about Shaquille O'Neal, I generally think about him either the younger, more raw, leaner version of him with the Orlando Magic, or I think about him at his absolute prime when he was a member of the Los Angeles Lakers, when, of course, he teamed up with Kobe Bryant to win 3 consecutive NBA titles. Of course, when he was with Orlando, he was teammates with Penny Hardaway, a guy who should have been an all-time great if not for injuries. And also I think about the journeyman years of his career when he was clearly on the downside of his career, but he played with teams like the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Phoenix Suns, and the Boston Celtics to wrap up his career. But there was also a tenure where he played a tenure where he played with the Miami Heat, a 3-year stint. When he was starting to decline as a player, wasn't quite as explosive, was falling down a little bit closer to the pack of centers, but he was still the best center in the NBA. And it was during this tenure that he teamed up with a young Dwayne Wade, and it was he, Wade, Adonis Haslam, Alonzo Mourning in the twilight of his career. Who else was on that team? Gary Payton, Jason Williams. A little bit fuzzy in my memory now for some reason. Who else was on that team? I think Antoine Walker was on that team. James Posey. Oh boy, memory has a way of kind of making you forget certain things. But I remember there was a lot of talent on that team. And in the NBA Finals that year, they were, a quarter and a half away from going down 3-0 against the Dallas Mavericks. I think they were down by something like 13 points the third quarter of Game 3, trailing 2-0. And all of a sudden, Dwayne Wade put that team on his back in a way that only Michael Jordan has ever been able to do. And they rallied from a 2.5 game deficit, if you want to say it like that, to come back and win 4 consecutive games and win the NBA title. The first title of Miami Heat's history. Of course, now they have 3 NBA championships. But Shaquille O'Neal had his jersey retired. He had his jersey retired, his number 32 that he wore with the Miami Heat. And it was during the game between the Miami Heat and Los Angeles Lakers. And his jersey was retired at halftime. And Shaq said that he was very surprised by this. Shaq put out there on NBA on TNT, "This is really unexpected. I thought it was one of my boys pranking me. Hashtag Shaqtacular." And his is only the 4th jersey number to be retired by the Miami Heat, joining Tim Hardaway and Alonzo Mourning, and oddly Michael Jordan. And that's, if you're younger, that's kind of hard to explain. Michael Jordan, of course, never played with the Miami Heat, but the president of the team is Pat Riley, and Pat Riley has so much respect for Michael Jordan as a player that he doesn't feel that jersey number should be worn by any player in the Miami Heat franchise. I guess he, in his eyes, he's giving Michael Jordan essentially the Jackie Robinson treatment when it comes to his team. I think something like that is more reserved for a person who has made, as great as Michael Jordan is a basketball player, I think that's more suited for someone who's done something on a social level that was very iconic, an act, a sacrifice, as Jackie Robinson did, rather than someone who was just extraordinarily popular for his, his athletic ability, his success, his productivity and marketing as well. But anyway, me personally about Shaq having his jersey retired, I think teams have gotten very lax about this, like retiring jerseys, because everything's starting to become more of a popularity contest. I don't think Shaq played long enough to have his jersey retired by the Miami Heat. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this is the case, then the Bulls should retire Dennis Rodman's number, right? Because he played 3 years with the Chicago Bulls, and you can't get more successful than 3 years, 3 championships, 3 rebounding titles, right? And the most colorful player in the NBA at that particular juncture. I don't think he should have his jersey retired then. I mean, if that's the protocol. But and then there's some other guys who haven't had their jerseys retired. I think it was Scorpio who said that, and I've checked it out and it's true, that the Dallas Mavericks still haven't retired Mark Aguirre's number. When he was with Dallas, Aguirre wore number 24, and during the 1980s, he was their best scorer. It was he and Rolando Blackman, but he was the number one option, and he was the best player on that team. And they still have never retired his jersey number. I think it's because of politics. I think I don't think he left that team on good terms or whatever. But the fact of the matter remains that he played on that team. I think he was drafted in 1981. And 1981 was a stellar draft. It's a draft that had Tom Chambers and Isaiah Thomas and aforementioned Mark Aguirre and some other players. But anyway, the point is, congratulations to Shaq, but I don't know. I don't know if he played quite long enough to have his jersey retired by that team. But then again, Pat Riley, I'm looking at the players that he has had retired jerseys numbers. Alonzo Mourning, Hall of Famer. Tim Hardaway probably should be in the Hall of Fame. And Shaquille O'Neal, Hall of Famer. So that's that. Probably, the fact that these guys are Hall of Famers, Pat Riley felt like these guys shouldn't have their jerseys worn by anybody else. So I can respect that on that aspect of it. But tell me what you guys think.